Hi guys and welcome to OTC. I'm your host Buddy1927. In today's episode we are talking about equipment. So let's go ahead and get on into it. Now equipment improves the effectiveness of the tank on the battlefield. Unlike consumable, there's only a one-time cost to the equipment. Now if the equipment does get damaged during battle, that's added to your repair bill at the end of the battle. Now the equipment also costs a lot more than the consumables, and there's a lot of variables depending on the cost. The type of tank that you have, the tier level of the tank that you have, the class of the tank that you have, and the nation of the tank that you have. Now when you add your equipment, down below your tank in your garage, there's 3 slots for equipment. Now you can add 3 pieces of equipment, but you cannot duplicate any of those 3. You can only add 3 different types of equipment to your tank. You can also purchase, and I don't recommend this, through the store from your garage. And the reason why I don't recommend this is if you're going from 1 tier tank and you want to purchase it because it's on sale this week, and you go to a higher tier tank and you buy the equipment, and then you find out when you finally get that higher tier tank, that there's another piece of equipment that's actually better for that tank than the one that you bought. Well, you have to sell. You can either keep it and put it onto another tank, or you end up selling it. I've done this a few times myself, and I was stupid. I don't do that anymore. I only buy equipment when I get my tank, because when you sell the equipment, you only get 50% of the value of the tank, of the equipment cost at the time. So if you bought it at 600,000 credits and you sell it, you end up getting 300. But World of Tanks every once in a while has a sale on equipment, and sometimes it's 50% off. So that $600,000 piece of equipment is 300,000. So and you're selling it. You bought it at 600, and you are now selling it, and it's on sale for 300. You only get 150. So if you are selling any piece of equipment, always make sure there's no sale going on, because wait for that sale to go off, so that way you get the full amount when you sell your piece of equipment. Now there's 2 types of equipment available for the tanks. There's removable equipment and complex equipment. Removable equipment can be dismounted at no cost and can be used on any tank. Complex equipment, well, there's only 3 ways you can remove that equipment from your tank. The first way is to pay 10 gold, and it goes to the depot and you can use it on another tank. The second way, and I don't recommend this, is actually to destroy that piece of equipment, because once you destroy it, you can't use it on any other tank. You can't sell it because it's destroyed, so you lose all those credits. The third way you can get it off your tank is to sell it along with the tank. And again, reminder, make sure World of Tanks doesn't have a sale going on equipment, or even the tank that you're selling, because whatever the cost is of that thing, you only get 50% of that cost. So if you're selling it when it's on sale, you lose those credits. Okay, our first removable piece of equipment, and this is called the camouflage net. Now, what the camouflage net does is add 25% to your camouflage factor rating, only when the hull has been stationary for more than 3 seconds. And the way you can tell the camouflage net is activated, down where your consumables are, you'll see this little symbol right here pop, and it will actually brighten up. You'll see it down there, but you'll see it will actually light up when it's active, and once you move, you see it unlight. That tells you if the camouflage net is active or inactive. So anything that will actually help you in hiding your tank is a benefit. This, like I said, adds 25% to your camouflage rating. I do highly recommend this for tank destroyers, SPGs, any snipers, and I do recommend it for passive scouts, ones that stay stationary and all that. Like I said, anything that help hide that tank works. Now the cost of it is 100,000 credits, and the weight of this is 100 kilograms. And buddy, why are you putting the weight up there? Well, the weight is important because some of the equipment has weight that will actually add to your tank. And depending on what suspension system you have on there or tracks that you have on there, determines the weight. So if you have a stock tank and the weight limit on this is 500 kilograms and you're at 450, and you try to put this camouflage net on there, it won't allow me to put the camouflage net on there. Why won't it let me put the camouflage net? Because you're at 450, your weight limit is 500, and the camouflage net weighs 100 kilograms. That's why. So I hope this explains the camouflage net. Okay, our next piece of equipment is also removable. It's called binocular telescopes, also known as binocs. Now, the binocs actually adds 25% to your view range, but only when you have been stationary for at least 3 seconds. Same thing like the camouflage net. Now, next to your consumables on your menu during battle, you'll see these. And to know when these are actually activated is that they'll be dim. Once you're stationary for 3 seconds, they actually brighten up. So that way you know they are active. If you're moving, they are inactive and they do not give you that 25%, so you must be stationary. Now, I do recommend this for tank destroyers, passive scouts, sniper tanks, and I use them on my SPGs. Really don't know why, but I do. Now, the cost of them are 500,000 credits, and the weight of it is 50 kilograms. Okay, the next equipment we're talking about is called the toolbox. It is removable. And what the toolbox does is add 25% to your repair speed. Now, the toolbox is useful if you're training your crew or you don't have a crew that is trained in repairs. This increases your repair speed by 25%. Now, personally, I use this on my heavy tanks because they get tracked a lot, and once I've used my repair kit, you don't get another one, so you have to speed up that time in repairing. So that will actually increase it by 25%. Now, there is a bonus. Now, if you have a crew that has 100% in repairs, you have the large repair kit, which gives you 15% increase in speed to your repairs, and this toolbox, which increases your speed by 25%. So, with the large repair kit and the toolbox, you have 35% increase in speed. Not 35, 40% increase in speed. My math is lousy, I apologize. But 40% increase in speed to repair your tracks. And the reason why I also use this on my scout, because if I'm tracked, I want to get the heck out of there as quickly as possible. So the quicker I can get my tracks repaired, the quicker I can get out of there, get behind cover, black out, come circle around, and spot again. Because one thing that you definitely need on the battlefield is you need lights. No matter if you're in an SPG, in a heavy, in a sniper tank, or a TD, you need the target spotted for you. And light tanks need to be mobile. And like I said, this increases by 25% in your repairs, along with a large repair kit. That's 40% total. Hey, 40% increase, that's a big difference. Now, the cost of this is 500,000 credits, and it does weigh 100 kilograms. Okay, our next piece of equipment is actually a complex piece of equipment. It's called the spall liner. Now, the spall liner increases your armor thickness depending on what type of tank that you have and what spall liner that you get. There are 4 different types of spall liners. There's the light spall liner, which increases your armor thickness by 20%. The medium spall liner increases your armor by 25%. The heavy increases your armor by 30%. And the super heavy increases your armor thickness by 50%. Now, what this does, it actually increases the thickness of the armor, depending, and it helps give you less damage on splash, near hits, and ricochets. One thing I want to make sure that you all understand: I do not recommend any spall liner for scouts, and the reason why is simple. Once you add a spall liner to a scout, you are increasing the weight to that tank. Once you increase weight, the more weight you have on the tank, the slower the tank becomes. So you want to take, and that is calculated in World of Tanks. So if you have a light tank that you use as an aggressive scout, it will actually decrease the amount of speed. So if you go 70 kilometers per hour on that scout, you will actually decrease the speed. If I remember correctly, you actually can decrease the speed by 5 kilometers per hour. So you're not as mobile as you once were. That's why I don't recommend it for scouts, but I do recommend it for heavy tanks, because the heavy tanks are designed to get the weight on the tank. They're not designed to move fast, they are designed to move slow. I will also recommend it for SPGs because it does give you a little bit more armor, because SPGs don't have much armor on there, but it does increase your armor thickness. So you might get a little bit less damage and you can get out of harm's way once you've been spotted. And I do recommend it depending on what type of tank destroyer that you have, and also what type of sniper tank that you have. Because remember, the more weight you put on the tank, the slower the tank actually becomes. So you got to take that in consideration. Now, the spall liner, the light spall liner, costs 50,000 credits, and it weighs 250 kilograms. The medium spall liner costs 200,000 credits and weighs 500 kilograms. The heavy spall liner costs 500,000 credits, not kilograms, sorry guys, and 1,000 kilograms. And the super heavy spall liner costs 750,000 credits and actually weighs 1,500 kilograms. Now, this by looking at the weight, it adds a significant amount of weight to this tank. That's why I don't recommend it for scouts. Some people use them for scouts, and it might be good for passive scouts, but a fast moving scout actually weighs it down, and your defense against the bullets is not your armor thickness, because you don't have much armor on there any which way. Your defense is being mobile and getting out of the way of the shots by zigzagging and other things. So the spall liner on scouts don't really benefit that much from it. So I hope this explains the spall liner. Okay guys, from here on out everything is complex equipment, so it will cost you at least 10 gold to remove it from your tank, or you have to you can destroy it, or you can sell it with your tank when you sell the tank. Now, what we're going to be talking about is the wet ammo rack, and what the wet ammo rack does is actually adds 50% ammo rack hit points to your ammo rack. You buy this for tanks that are prone to be ammo rack damaged or ammo rack explosions, and mainly that's the Russian and German lines. There are some American and other tanks that also have problems with ammo rack. So this, if you're ammo racked a lot, this is actually a good piece of equipment to actually have installed on your tank, because it does increase your tank by 50% hit points to your ammo rack. Now there's two types of ammo racks. There's the wet ammo rack class 1, which costs 200,000 credits, and the wet ammo rack class 2, which costs 600,000 credits. Both of them will add 1% of the tank's weight in kilograms. So the heavier the tank, the more it's going to weigh. So make sure you get the right suspension when you try to add this to your tank. Okay, guys, the next piece of equipment is called a cyclone filter. And what this does is add 50% hit points to your engine. You need to buy this if you have a tank that has a lot of that gets engine damage a lot. Now, there is another one called Remove Governor Speed, which is a consumable, and this does not counteract the effect of the Remove Governor Speed, which damages your engine as it's being used. So, don't even try it. Now, this is only available for the Russian tanks, but if you have a Russian tank where you have a lot of damage to your engine, not due to the removed governor speed, but in combat situations, this might be a good piece of equipment to have. The cost of it is 500,000 credit, and it only weighs 10 kilograms. Okay, our next one is called Fill Tanks with CO2. And what this does is increases your fuel tank hit points by 50%. Now, the only time this equipment is actually good for is if you're on a tank where your fuel tank gets hit a lot. This will actually help reduce by 50%, reduce the damage that is done to your tank, or actually increase the hit points by 50%. And also, it will also help not prevent, but give you a little less chance of actually catching on fire. So I do recommend this if you have a tank that gets hit a lot in the fuel tanks. Cost of it's 500,000 credits, and it weighs 50 kilograms of CO2. Okay, guys, the next piece of equipment we're talking about is called suspension. And what suspension does is add 10% to your suspension load limit, adds 30% to your suspension hit point, and adds 50% reduction due to suspension damage due to impact, i.e., falls. You do that jump and you land hard, you get tracked, or you end up doing some damage to your suspension. This reduces the chances by 50% of actually getting damaged. Now, there's a lot of suspensions in here, and I did not list all the suspensions. Depending on what type of tank that you have, what tier tank you have, and what nation tank you have, is what type of suspension is available for your tank. So there's a lot of them out there. I would have to go through 5 slides just to be able to list all the suspensions that are available for the tanks. And I did not do this. I'm just giving you general information about this piece of equipment. Now, this piece of equipment is actually good for several different situations. Now, in the beginning, when I was talking about equipment, and I was talking about the weight, this will actually help you here a little bit. You got that stock tank, and you've added a gun rammer onto your tank, and you try to add on your camouflage net to your tank, and it won't allow you to take that camouflage net because it weighed too much. What this does will add 10% more weight limit to your tank, and i.e. then you can actually attach the camouflage module to your tank, because this does not add any weight to your tank. This increases your load limit allowed on your tank. Now, second, this is also good for tanks that get tracked a lot. And what this does, it increases your hit points to your tracks by 30%. So it increases your chances of less being tracked by 30%. So if you got a tank that gets tracked a lot, you might want to add the suspension system for that tank to actually help increase your chances of not being tracked. Third, this is also great for scouts. And the reason is you're moving fast, you hit that little bump, you go sailing, you land hard. I mean, I've gotten airborne a lot of times. I enjoy going airborne on some of my tanks. But when you hit hard, you do some damage to your suspension, or you actually get tracked. I've actually double tracked mine before. And what this does is actually decreases the amount of damage by 50% on there. So this will actually help you with your light tanks and your speed. Now, this does not increase the acceleration, your traverse speed, or anything else. All this does is 10% to your low limit, 30% to your suspension hit points, and 50% reduction due to damage to impact from, i.e., falls or jumps or anything like that, or even accidentally running into a tank where you damage your suspension. This will give you 50% less reduction in that chance of you actually getting damaged. Now, once again, this thing does not add any weight to it, but it does cost from 20,000 credits to 600,000 credits, depending on the type of tank and tier that you have. I hope this explains suspensions for you. Okay, guys, our next piece of equipment is called the gun rammer, and this actually increases your performance. That's why I put performance up there. Okay, this is my favorite piece of equipment out of all of them. This is the first piece of equipment I put on all my tanks except for my scouts. And the reason why I don't put it on my scouts is you don't shoot with scouts. And what the gun rammer does, it decreases your load time by 10%. So the quicker you can reload the gun, the quicker you can shoot again. And that's why I put it on all my tanks except for my scouts. Now, there's 4 different types of rammers. And the first 2 are the large and medium caliber tank gun rammers. And the next 2 are the large and the medium artillery gun rammers. So, depending on what you have, if you have a TD or heavy or medium tank or a light tank, you use the tank gun rammers, and if you have artillery, you use the artillery gun rammers. Now, if you have an autoloader, this does not work. Sorry. It does not. You can't use it on autoloaders. It does not. It doesn't do anything for the autoloaders. So, guys with the autoloaders, especially when you have that 90-second reload time. So sorry, so sad, too bad. Bye bye. Okay. Now the cost of this ranges from 200,000 credits to 600,000 credits, and the weight goes from 200 to 500 kilograms. It depends on what tier tank you have, what type of tank you have, depending on the cost and the weight. I hope this explains what the gun rammer does, and remember, this is the best piece of equipment you can buy for your tank. Okay, guys, we only have 5 more pieces of equipment to go over, so let's get it done here. Our next one is enhanced gun lane drive, and this is a performance piece of equipment, and basically what it does is reduces your aim time by 10%. Now, I recommend this for tanks where you have a long aim time. I mainly use it on my tank destroyers and my SPGs and my sniper tanks. It also works in conjunction with the vertical stabilizer. So if you do a lot of peekabooing, you might want to utilize this and the vertical stabilizer to help reduce your aim time. That's about what it goes for. You can use it from tier 1 to tier 10. It costs 500,000 credits and it weighs 100 kilograms. Okay, our next piece of equipment is also performance. It's called vertical stabilizer, and what it basically does, it takes 20% reduction on the accuracy penalties of a tank that's moving. Basically, if you're doing peekaboo shooting, the circle that your aiming circle is actually 20% smaller than what it was. So it actually helps reduce a little bit. Now, combine it with the enhanced gun lane drive, it actually increases your aiming time a lot more and a lot quicker. That's why it's good for. If you do a lot of peekaboo shooting, or if you do a lot of shooting on the run, this piece of equipment is actually vital for you because it will help you aim a lot quicker and take 20% of that penalty reduction while you're moving. Now, the cost of it ranges from 500,000 to 600,000 credits and weighs 100 to 200 kilograms, depending on what type of tank that you have. Okay, now the next one is called coated optics. It's also a performance piece of equipment. Now, a lot of people get this messed up and I'm going to try to explain it here. Coated optics gives you 10% view range. Now, this works constantly. Whether you're moving or sitting still, you get a 10% view range. Now, a lot of people, and I've had some people in my clan that actually say, well, if you add binocs to your coated optics, you get 35% view range. Wrong. Now, the bonus of the 10% is active only when you are moving, and even when you're sitting still, it's still active. But if you have binoculars, once the binocs actually kick in, your coated optics turn off, and now your binoculars are working. So now you're up to 25% while you're stationary. So you do not get that 35% combination. And a lot of people get that mixed up. I've had clan members and other people who play the tank, World of Tanks say, "Oh, you need for your tank destroyers, you need to have coated optics and binocs. It gives you a 35% view range." It doesn't. Okay, you get 10% while you're moving. If you have both of them on, you get 10% while you're moving, and once you're stationary for 3 seconds, you get 25%. And once you move again, you back down to 10%. Now, this is actually good for scouts, fast-moving scouts, or anybody who's aggressive players or aggressive medium tanks where you're moving around a lot. This will actually give you a 10% increase in your view range. Now, it does cost you 500,000 credits. There's no weight to it, so you don't have to worry about the weight load limit on it. Our next piece of equipment is also performance. It's called Additional Gross. And what this does is actually, on soft grounds, it gives you 9.1% terrain resistance. And on average soils and on the road, it gives you 4.8% resistance on those terrains. This is only available for German tanks. The cost of it costs 250,000 credits, and it weighs 1,000 kilograms. Okay, guys, we're on our last piece of equipment, and this is for the crew. It's called Improved Ventilations. And what this does, it adds a +5 to all your crew members on your tank, which actually improves the performance of your tank. Now, there's one side effect to this. This is only good for tanks that have a hatch. If you have an open top vehicle, sorry, you can't use this. This is very beneficial. I use this a lot on my heavy tanks and my TDs that have closed turrets. And the cost of it is 50,000 credits to 600,000 credits, and it weighs from 100 to 200 kilograms. Okay, guys, we went over a lot of information here about the equipment, and I hope you understand how important the equipment is to the tank. More importantly, the right type of equipment to the tank improves your battle performance. Now, here at NAFTA, we have some news. We actually have 2 new partners here to NAFTA. Our first partner here is XSplit. This program, OTC, and all the video series that you see is actually recorded using XSplit. And I did do a review on NAFTA Review on XSplit. Get a chance to check it out. Our second partner is Freedom. Now, down below in the video description, there are links to both XSplit and Freedom. If you get a chance, check them out. Now, I'd like to thank you again for watching OTC. And if y'all get a chance, save some tanks on the battlefield for me.